All right, my name is Patrick Meehan, and I'm going to be moderating this sort of interaction here between myself and one of the Senate candidates. The Senate candidate I have before me is Kristian Arciaga. Did I pronounce that right?
Arciaga.
I'm sorry.
That's good.
So what I'd like to do is I'd like to ask you if you have any opening statements, then we'll get into some questions.
Thank you very much, Patrick. Yes, I do. My name is Kristian Arciaga, and I'm running for the position of AUS Senator for this year. I recently served as this past year's AUS VP Finance. Under this portfolio, I instituted numerous funds for club alleviation, relief funds, numerous incentives for clubs to perform and host events, and I also published the first AUS budget online. And the year before that, I first got involved in the AUS in my second year, where I was the general officer and interfaculty liaison for the organization.
All right, so you seem to have a lot of experience on sort of the club level and sort of the extracurricular level. Senate is primarily concerned with academics. Where do you think you fall in on that, and where are your experiences with that?
In terms of academics, academics obviously one of the two main power brokers in UBC, Senate obviously concerning academic policy, the Board of Governors concerning tuition and finances, construction, etc. In terms of academics, I was very involved with the planning of the academic portfolio in my past experiences. In my second year, I was involved in the AUS Academic Committee. I helped spearhead the joint BA, BCom, joint Bachelor of Arts, joint Bachelor of Commerce degree. I kept a very close eye on it in Senate. It's still under construction in the Senate. I've been in close consultation with our current VP Academic, Regina Tay, in terms of academics and applying conference sponsorships and conference delegation subsidies for art students. I've also been obviously keeping a close eye on recent Senate initiatives from students in the past.
Speaking of recent Senate initiatives, one of the initiatives that's come forward and is actually going into its inaugural year coming up is the Pass-Fail initiative. Where do you stand on that?
I'm all for it. From what I know, it's one of the first student policy run initiatives that's about to pass through Senate. I'm all for it, as long as the current terms stand up, that it's only for electives, doesn't affect prerequisites. It's just one of those things that allow all students, especially art students, to expand. If they may not know what the end result will be in a class they're taking, and they're still legitimately interested in that class, like in a science class, for example, where they don't know if they're going to do too well or not, but they're legitimately interested in it. I'm all for the pass-fail system, and I think it's a great initiative for students.
Do you want to explain it really quickly? Just explain the pass-fail really quickly.
Oh yeah, pass-fail initiative, where it's essentially where students would take a class, they would have the option of pass-fail, and I think credits. It's literally a credit system, and if they want to take it for credit, from what I believe, pass-fail and D, something like that.
All right, it's good that you're keeping abreast of all the a lot of the issues that are coming out. This year we saw Mr. Jeff Costello become the first chair of Senate, student chair of Senate. Would you see that as something that is good for students, and do you think that having more chairs in the future would be good, and do you see yourself possibly filling that role at some point?
It's great that I saw a lot of us got to witness Jeff Costello be vice chair of the Senate. It was a really good thing. What was the other question? It's other chairs, or
do you see this happening in the future as well? Do you see yourself maybe being able to fulfill that?
Okay, well, I see students in the future potentially taking that leadership role. As for me, since this is my first run at Senate, there are other student senators who are obviously more experienced. I could see them filling the role, but if called upon, if I have the credentials upon my Senate experience in the future, if elected, I would see myself taking that role. That is, if other experienced senators wouldn't have taken that role already.
What do you think about publishing the teacher reviews, the professor reviews that we do every year, making those accessible to the public in sort of a more, as some people have put it, a more responsible, more real version of Rate My Professor?
I'm all for that. In fact, one of my interests going into this election was the Teaching and Learning Senate Committee. I think that this is an essential committee. It covers all aspects of, obviously, our professor experiences, our professor reviews. I think it would be a responsible thing. It would be accountable for all students, so they would see where some professors rate on some things, where they rate on curriculum. I think it's responsible, but only to the extent that they're covered in depth. By in depth, I mean they rate all students, they weed out all the statistical anomalies, etc.
All right, and how many actual meetings of the Senate have you attended in the past?
To be honest, I've attended no Senate meetings in the past. However, I have been keeping abreast in the situation. I have read the recent months of minutes, getting myself involved. I have met with past student senators and current student senators to, gauge my level of interest to see if I'm actually interested in it. I am interested in it, and to see if I understand the issues to the core and depth that I need to understand them to.
What do you think the issue that the Senate deals, specific issue the Senate deals with most affects students directly? I know that the Senate deals with a lot of issues that affect students, obviously, because it's entirely based on academia. But what do you think sort of the core meat and potatoes issue is that students are affected by day-to-day is, and how do you think you'd affect it?
Good question. Day-to-day, one of the, main platform issues that I've spoken to numerous students. I polled about 50 students, especially on your question. I think the issue is time. And by time, I mean, should the noon hour break be reinstated in UBC? I believe that this noon hour break is one of the most pressing issues still, because a lot of clubs, a lot of presidents and the VP externals may campaign on this later, but a lot of clubs need time to meet. Faculty advisors, faculty departments, like the political science department apparently has trouble meeting, has trouble implementing times to meet. I think the noon hour breaks would be awesome for clubs to meet, departments to meet, for people to grab lunch. I think that would be the main day-to-day issue that I would address in Senate. So that would probably affect something along the lines of academic policy, which I would look forward to examining.
Along similar lines to the idea of time and time to make meetings, there has traditionally been a a slacking of classes in the Tuesday and Thursday evenings, specifically for what you just talked about, like club meetings. I don't know if you're aware of that or not, but you see, for example, IRSA meets, the International Students Association, International Relations Association meets on those times specifically because of that. And a lot of that is sort of incorporated in the societies. Do you support this? Because there's been a lot of pressure to remove it, and do you see why that pressure exists and what the need for that class time is?
To remove what specifically?
Tuesdays and Thursdays, there's significantly less classes during the evening than on other days, primarily to allow for that sort of club meeting engagement that you're talking about. Why do you think there's such a pressure to remove that, and do you support keeping it in place?
Remove the slacking off of class. I could see the pressure, obviously, because having taken many economics classes before, there are a lot of opportunity costs, class spaces, class times, professor availabilities. I would obviously examine both sides of the debate before making a firm decision. I mean, I know the noon hour break is obviously one of the popular, issues that students want to address, but I do see why there's a lot of pressure, like I said, due to the 3 opportunity costs that I listed.
Okay, thanks. Do you have any specific things that you want to pick up as your banner and rally cry? Other than that noon hour, what other things you want to really fight for on Senate?
Definitely. 2 additional things to my platform. One of them is examining admission policy specifically to arts, running for arts senator, obviously. Admission policy is different in our counterparts in Sauder, for example, where they have a very broad-based admission. They look at credentials. What I would eventually look for, if elected as senator, would be to re-examine the admission policy for arts, not just for grades, because really there is no difference in the grand scheme of things, between a 98 and a 96. We really want to see what differentiates our students and what makes them special to enter a school as awesome as UBC. Secondly, I would expand on community-based research and community-based learning initiatives. I know in political